Hey everybody, it's David Duford here at Final Expense Agent Mentor, where I help agents like you succeed in selling insurance. And in today's video presentation, I'm giving you a deep dive, detailed overview of mortgage protection leads and what options you have. Now, most likely you're here today because you're possibly looking into getting into the mortgage protection business, or perhaps you are already in the mortgage protection business but are in desperate need of leads. Or if you're brand new, you know that leads are really important and you need to know what your options are, and you want to be able to grade them so that you can pick the best way to pick the best leads to maximize your success in the mortgage protection business. If this describes you, then you definitely want to stick around because we're going to go through all of the major options, free and paid lead options you have, so that you can get a really good idea as to what's out there, and so you can decide how you're going to proceed with mortgage protection leads. So let's get started. So first, to start with an overview of today's agenda, I'm going to introduce you to myself and my business so you can get to know me a little bit better. I'm going to talk a little bit about direct mail leads after that, what the standard lead card says, look at some direct mail lead comparisons, specifically talking about the difference between fresh versus aged leads, including typical costs. Then we're going to talk about the online lead generation approach to directing or generating mortgage protection leads. We're going to talk about how online leads are purchased, typical costs. Then we're going to go through a litany of several free lead ideas, including generating your own leads at the county clerk house, how that works, pros and cons, referral relationships, where to look for mortgage protection referral relationships, and then lastly talking about speaking engagements, why they're so powerful, how to find them, and why you may have some resistance to the idea initially, but really you can still do some really good damage, in a good way, of course, by getting up and speaking. And I'll give you my final thoughts on the process of generating mortgage protection leads, and then show you how to take the next steps. So my name is David Duford. I am the owner and founder of feagentmentor.com, where I help agents across the nation succeed in selling life insurance, not just final expense, but mortgage protection and other lines as well. I've been personally licensed as a life insurance agent since 2011, and since then I've helped over 3,000 families with their life insurance needs. I also do a lot of other things besides sell insurance, including publishing books. So you can see one of my best-selling books in the lower left-hand corner, The Official Guide to Selling Final Expense Insurance. Also, I do recruit agents. I recruit across the country. I have over several hundred agents, now over 400 actually, from coast to coast, helping them go into their community to help people out with their life insurance needs. I'm also a big YouTube proponent. As you probably are watching this on YouTube, I've got lots of other YouTube training on all sorts of things related to insurance sales. So make sure you subscribe and like, of course, if you haven't, and if you'd like that kind of thing. And last but not least, I'm married with my fourth child arriving any day soon. So we're going to have 4 kids and very blessed. So wish us luck. So we're going to start today by talking about what I think is the king in the mortgage lead generation business, and that is direct mail. Direct mail leads, like in many other life insurance lines and insurance lines really, are the biggest drivers of interest and eventual sales of mortgage protection products. My experience in this business has led me to see that no matter if you're working for one of these very large, multi-level marketing focused organizations or a more boutique or niche-based mortgage protection organization, the vast majority of them build their lead generation models around the same thing, and that is direct mail. So why are they so successful? Well, we'll kind of get into that in a minute, but I want to give you a basic rundown of how direct mail works in case you're unfamiliar, just so that you can be on the same page with me. So here's how they're generated. First, once somebody buys a home and they apply and are approved for a mortgage, and that has gone through its process, this is filed locally at a local courthouse. Now, what all these courthouses do is, every government's in the interest of making money. Usually it's by taxes, but other ways to make money include to sell list information. So this mortgage information is really important and is a great source of profit for the local county that house was sold in. So they take this data and they compile it to be sold off to list brokers, or they may have their own solution where people can do or buy a subscription fee to get this information. So usually within a couple of days, this information is generated, And the mail house that we work with, or any organization, they get this information and then create their mail list and then print off a bunch of leads to mail to those people for the following week. Usually it goes out, it should at least go out first class so that it gets there really quick while the interest is high right after the mortgage has been closed. And then a fraction of those recipients return it first class. Of course, not everybody's going to reply to this. Some people reply to other leads. But in most cases, direct mail has a lower response rate. 1% to 2% is usually the norm. And then usually within 2 to 3 weeks, tops, usually no more than that, if you're working with the right kind of mail house, your leads begin to come back and you begin to work them. And virtually, like I said, all the top producing agents work just like this. They source direct mail leads. They get 15, 20, 25, whatever their number is that they need to hit a week. And they work this on a consistent weekly basis. This is how they do business. This is what keeps them in business. And this is what helps them produce the really large amounts of premiums that they're hitting week after week after week in this business. So let's talk about what the actual lead card says to kind of give you a better idea of how it works and why we think it's so effective. So let's take a closer look at several examples of what the Mortgage Protection Direct Mail Lead Card says. And then remember, here's the thing with mortgage protection, got to keep in mind. The power of a mortgage protection lead is not necessarily in what it says, but whom it's sent to. A lot of these leads will look very similar, but what I'm most interested in is getting the best, most freshest data. And that means the people that we're mailing to is the biggest driver of the interest in it. Remember, people are in a window of opportunity. This is what makes mortgage protection so great. People literally just bought probably their biggest investment you could look at, or if you look at the other way, their biggest mortgage or biggest obligation of debt. And so there is a vested interest emotionally to protect this so their family can resume life as normally as possible if they pass away, including keeping the home that they hope to make into a homestead for themselves. So let's take a look at some of these look at some of these pieces so you can get an idea of kind of what you're going to be jumping down into if you decide to do direct mail leads with mortgage protection. Okay, so this first lead you're looking at is a very common lead, and what you'll see between these two that we're looking at, they pretty much have the same variables that make a big difference. So, the first thing I'll focus to you on, of course, is we know the name of the person. We include that in the letter. We know the mortgage date in which it was filed, and we know the lender information as well. We, of course, include all this, including the mortgage amount, if you can see in that first paragraph there. And then we begin to talk about the new low-cost mortgage protection, life insurance protection program, and really just describe how it works. And then in the benefits box here, you can see all the different benefits of how the mortgage protection program works. We specifically name the amount of the mortgage, talk about the riders and information that one can get, and really just bring home the benefits and what it's trying to accomplish. The lead card at the bottom is detachable. That's what gets sent back to us. And then you see the information on the spouse, the borrower, contact information, work, cell phone, best time to call. And all of this stuff is great because we got so much information that we call on, and they read through this, and obviously they're going to be very well versed when you call that this is about life insurance and there's very specific information about it. And this is going to be very exciting to them. Let's take a look at another one. This is another example of another lead. And you can see exactly here, very same concept here. Loan amount there on the right-hand side. And then we can look down here. And this one has an attempt to try to put some little urgency on it. And it's got the little asterisk. It's just kind of explain what that means. And then, again, you get to see some of the benefits. They pay off the loan amount upon death. Very similar to the other lead piece. This just uses a little bit of urgency to try to generate a response to this one. And you can see all the information down here. They even begin to try to pre-qualify these people a little bit through the lead. So let's answer the question, why are fresh and exclusive direct mail leads are crucial to your success? So here's the thing. Fresh, exclusive direct mail leads are necessary to your success if you decide to sell mortgage protection. It's really the case with all leads and all insurance lines because of the following reason. So there's higher conversion opportunity because of top-of-mind awareness. Now, this is really important in mortgage protection. In mortgage protection, what I'm describing here is no secret to the large organizations. They all know direct mail works, and they also want to be offering it in a sense, especially for top producers, in the sense that they want to be the first agent in the door if at all possible. And that means the leads need to be new, and they don't need to be resold. Now, save this information for later, but a lot of these organizations resell your leads, or they'll sell you the leads after being weeks or months old. And that just puts a huge damper on the actual effectiveness of these leads, because the reason you're responding with a mortgage protection lead is to be the first one in the door. Because people literally, after they buy a house, think of the mindset they're in. It's not just buying life insurance per se to protect the home. It's also buying furniture. It's also upgrading other things. They're in this buying mindset, and you really want to capitalize on that. And that's what fresh and exclusive leads do. And you certainly don't want to come behind an agent who's already tried to sell these people, or maybe already have. Again, a lot of organizations do this, and when you have all that in place, your conversions are lower and you waste more money. So I'm a big believer. You got to get fresh and exclusive leads, because that's going to get you in the door more often. It's going to get you more often faster, and you're going to convert more of your prospects that you see because you're there at the height of the top-of-mind awareness. And it is an extremely marketing competitive niche. Look, there's a lot of organizations that sell mortgage protection. You may be brand new and see all these different multi-level marketing companies telling you how great this business is, and it is. But the problem is that when these people move in, they get their mortgage filed, they see this lead piece come back, you're going to be shocked. They're literally going to get like a half dozen to a dozen of these, all within the course of several weeks. So you have to be faster, and you've got to be exclusive, because you want to be on top of these leads as quickly as possible, because this is a first one in wins type of market. You got to get in, you got to sit down, really connect with these people, build value in what it is that you're doing, and get them protected, because I promise you within the next couple of days, somebody else is going to give it a shot and try to. And like I said earlier, age leads, generally speaking, give you a lower conversion ratio. It's not that they're completely bad or that they're out of the question of even being used. It's just that when they're aged, just think about it. People fall out of their mindset. Sometimes we'll be interested in buying something, but then life kind of has a way of grappling us back in a different direction, so we lose interest and urgency. So we don't want to do that as a primary source of generating leads. That's why it's so important to get the fresh, brand new leads to work in mortgage protection. And that's the other thing with recycled leads too. Recycled leads are where somebody has purchased them, and the marketing organization, after so long, usually 30 or 40 days, offers them again to the market so other agents can try to use them. Now, I think the biggest reason that these organizations do this is for cash flow. They may operate at a slight loss with their direct mail. That's me being nice. Some people swear that the primary business for these multi-level marketers is the lead, and so they're interested in profiting off of reselling old, overused leads. But either way, when you use a lead that's been purchased again, look, you're going to have lower conversion ratios. It's really hard to run a well-tuned, fine mortgage protection machine working somebody else's older leads or recycled leads. It just doesn't really pan out in the long run. And here's the thing, just like in any business, the marketing component is tremendously important. You can be a great salesman, you can be really effective, you can be very charismatic, but if you don't have the right system to give you a steady stream of high quality prospects, your likelihood of longer term success is going to be in question. So you've got to dial in a marketing system that works, that's been proven to work, as quickly as possible. And you need to be prepared for whatever it takes to do it if you want the real success that comes out of being in any business, including selling mortgage protection. And again, you got to do this right from the beginning. It's a lot of people come into this business, they hear all this stuff, and then they decide, well, that's too expensive, or I can't handle that. So they go the cheap route. And what's bad about it is there's a lot of organizations that say you can do the cheap route. You'll do just fine. And they do this out of their own self-interest to try to make a sale or two off of you and also unload some leads for a little bit of a profit, knowing that you're going to really struggle hard most likely. But what tends to happen is as these people pop in and they start doing mortgage protection with these old, aged, recycled leads, and they don't get any traction, they get frustration, and people begin to develop a bias towards the business based off of really the worst starting position. That's not what you want to do. You want to start yourself off from the best position, and if need be, prepare over time to start from that position. Maybe you don't jump in right away. Maybe you wait a little while. I'll talk about that in a little bit. So let's move to that. So what are the typical costs for mortgage protection direct mail leads? This is probably one of the biggest perceived downsides of mortgage protection sales. And everything I've said is true about direct mail being king. But because the source of which we're collecting this data is not cheap, you are going to have a higher acquisition cost. Plus, the lead itself is very descriptive. It's packaged in a different way than other sources of leads. So the costs to generate leads are much higher than what you'll find with other insurance lines. My research and the businesses and lead houses we use, generally speaking, and this is as of 2018, the leads generated from fresh mortgage filings, the kind that you want to work, depending on the vendor, are going to range from $650 to $690 per thousand. Again, this is subject to change. You understand this was made at a particular point in time. Postage rates aren't going down, it looks like. So, around that range is what it's going to cost for 1,000 mailers to go out. And we also have vendors that will mail out 90-day-old data. So people who have filed mortgages 90 days ago. It's a good way to get extra leads in an area. That will go a little bit cheaper because the data's got a little age on it, and that's $525 to $560 per thousand. Again, that's as of 2018. What we see as far as response rates go is that each mailer will generate between 10, maybe 15 leads tops, whether you do fresh filings or 90-day-old filings. So we're looking at a price point somewhere between, mid-60s, mid-50s, maybe upper 40s if you're lucky. But again, this is what it costs to play the mortgage protection game. And this is a couple things to keep in mind if you're deterred by the cost. The beautiful thing about mortgage protection is that generally speaking, conversion ratios are tremendously better when you're doing mortgage protection. So relative to other types of insurance lines. Plus you have higher commission level opportunity in mortgage protection. Usually the premium per month averages are higher than, say, final expense. So the end-all be-all here is what ends up happening is that even though you may only get 15 leads back per 1,000, you're going to set a lot of appointments with these people. And when you meet with these people, there'll be a higher show ratio, and you'll be able to sell a lot more of these people than you otherwise would have, just because of the power of the data that we get, where people are in the mindset of being very concerned about protecting their home and making sure that they're doing their family right in case, God forbid, they died early. So let's talk about mortgage protection internet leads. So agents can utilize online mediums like Google search or Facebook to generate mortgage protection leads as well. Facebook can pull the same new mortgage data information and display ads to homeowners as well. And the process to create Facebook ads is very simple. And you need a little training, of course, to get it set up. But you can run your own Facebook ads and control the lead generation process at a wholesale process without retail markups. Of course, if you don't want to go through this process, there are vendors, including what we have to offer, that you can purchase mortgage protection Facebook leads if you don't want to fool with that process. The copy of the Facebook ads is very similar. It usually displays, if you're familiar with Facebook, in the news feed, and there's an ad there. The person clicks on it to get more information. The lead form pops up. It's already pre-filled to some extent. The person puts in the rest of the information and submits. So price points around the same, a little bit less sometimes, right around the $40 to $50 range. This depends on your area. You might be able to get a little less if you end up sourcing and creating your own at wholesale cost. Okay, so let's move and transition to free lead ideas. So the first thing I want to talk about is the courthouse. Now, we mentioned this earlier. When somebody files a mortgage, it's filed at the county courthouse. And you can get new mortgage filings for literally low to no cost when you visit the local county courthouse. they have this information made available to the public. It's just part of what is made public whenever sales are consummated and then mortgages are filed. It's just part of the transparency process that's required by the county. So what you want to do is look for the deed section. If you go into the courthouse, ask around, where is the deed section? Where can I find new mortgage filings? These people know where to send you to go. And usually, again, for a small fee, sometimes they charge you per page that you print. That's how they make their money. Sometimes it's a subscription fee. Maybe you can do it online. But you can extract the same exact data that's used in the direct mail lead system. And like I said, you can get this information online with a visit. So the goal here is to take this information that was just recently filed and then go canvas for presentations. And you have to cold call here. But what's great about this is that this is not just a cold call. Cold calling is probably not the right term to use. This is a very hot cold call, put it that way. Because the reason is that we know that these people just did something extraordinary. They just bought and got involved in their biggest debt or their biggest obligation. And when we walk in by, introduce ourselves and tell them why we're stopping by, that we just got notification of their new mortgage, and we're here because we have a special program to cover it in case one of you passes away. We want 5 minutes to show you how it works, to see if you might be interested. Can we set a time up, or can I come in? You're going to convert a lot of these approaches into presentations. I talked to one gentleman that said he had an agent that was, for every 4 approaches off of a list, just like this in his county, out of every 4 approaches, 1 would book an appointment. That's really good for a cold call. And then out of each booking he made, half would buy. So think about that. He literally has to do, let's do the math, he has to do, for 20 appointments or 20 approaches, he's going to get in 5 doors and sell 2 or 3 policies. And he's going to make probably close to several $1,000s in commission, if not more, if the averages play out. All for the cost of nothing, pretty much nothing at least. So it's a very powerful method. And you can take this information and go out there and just prospect during the day and find people and eventually run appointments to create your own business that way. So I think that's the biggest pros. There's no cost to doing this except to buy the lead information at a very low cost. It's almost free. I don't want to say it is free, but it's pretty close. And the drawbacks would be you got to cold call. You got to approach these people cold. But I promise you, this is something that I think is really, really good. These people are going to have other people send them direct mail leads anyway. They're going to get them lined up. And it's not going to be some unfamiliar experience. They know they're getting this stuff. And again, they've got the mindset here. So even though there's this cold, unsolicited approach, they're also going to be seeing these cards already. And the other thing too about this is you're getting in the door first, whereas the other guys aren't. They're getting in the door last. If you were to go out, you're going to get in and have a much better opportunity to one-up them, because you don't have to wait for these leads to come back in a couple of weeks, right? You get this information Friday when usually the courthouses publish it. Go out that night. Go out Saturday. You're going to be able to see people where you otherwise wouldn't. And you're several weeks ahead of the regular direct mail guy that's using these leads. So second free idea to generate mortgage protection leads is through referral relationships. So the best mortgage protection life insurance referrals will come from other vendors actively soliciting business around the prospect's life event window of opportunity. So what I mean by here, as I mentioned several times, when somebody buys a home, all sorts of things happen. Usually their wallets, figuratively speaking, are wide open. They're going to buy new furniture. They're going to clean the house up maybe before they move in. They're going to be involved moving stuff, right, from a moving company. I mean, there's endless things that happen when somebody moves in. And so you can go to some of these places, and if you develop a relationship with them, and you can ask for anybody that they get as new business. Maybe you pay them for the leads, or you develop a relationship with them somehow. But anywhere where people are involved in this process of someone buying a new home are great people you can connect with and develop referral relationships with. Of course, realtors would be an obvious choice, right? If you've got realtor friends in the business, look, when they buy a home, they close on it first, right? They're the first to know. And hey, if they can provide you names and information of people interested, this is a great opportunity. Loan officer, same thing as well. You can approach at networking events as well. I was a big proponent of BNI, which is a once a week business networking opportunity event where everybody stands up, tells everybody what you do, gives information, who they're looking for as far as referrals, and you can connect with other people who are in similar businesses and get referrals from them. The best way to referrals is to give them. I have found that if you approach these people and you help them first, you be a go-giver, then they will give back. It's reciprocal. Giving is reciprocal. Whenever you give a gift to somebody or help, people will feel obligated to return the process. So think of ways that you can give referrals to these people, or at least help them out somehow, and they will feel obligated to do the same thing. So the pros here, of course, is this is a totally free way of generating leads. It's very effective, probably has the highest close ratio of all the lead sources that are out there. Of course, you deal with a different type of prospect that may not reply to a direct mail lead. And the drawbacks, though, is this takes some time to do. This doesn't just happen instantly. Of course, retaining referral relationships takes time. You got to, obviously stimulate a relationship. It just doesn't happen by design. So to me, this is a medium to longer term setup, unless you've already got these relationships in place. Maybe you know some people. Maybe you've been in one of these businesses. That's a great leg up, and it's definitely some leverage you want to use in getting started. So let's talk about speaking engagements. Now, you can give short speeches at different organizations talking about generic topics related to life insurance. And what you'll find is that these short speeches are extremely powerful. They're very low cost, if any at all. And they're great ways to develop high quality leads. And of course, this video you're watching is about mortgage protection. But I like to kind of generalize this when I do speeches and talk about maybe some interesting facts and figures. It doesn't have to be a super complicated ordeal. A lot of people, you have to think about from their perspective of your audience, they're not going to have a great idea of how life insurance works. But instead of just talking shop, you can talk about interesting facts and figures about maybe what happens and why people lose their homes and why that's a bad idea and how you can solve and prevent that from happening, and sharing stories. So these make really good speaking opportunities. And the great thing about it is, because everybody's deathly afraid of speaking, if you can overcome that, literally every social club and community organizations are just starving for speakers. If you just call them up and say, hey, I'm a professional insurance agent, I'm licensed, I like to give talks of educational information about dying and kind of the factors behind what happens. It's a really educational experience. People learn a lot, facts they didn't know, and it motivates a lot of people to take the right steps of protecting themselves. Literally all of these places will say yes. So in the final expense business, I teach a seminar system where I teach agents to talk to seniors. And the show ratio, or for the booking ratio, is literally 70% of the time. So that means out of 10 approaches to these places that we help agents find, 7 are going to say yes to a seminar. That's huge. And you'll find the same thing happening really in any circumstance where speakers are required. So, tips on where you can find these, first of all, include the Kiwanis Club. You can also go to the Rotary Club. Women's groups at churches is really good. Literally, there's small groups, maybe weight loss help. Anywhere where people meet for periods of time. Look, they need to break up what they do, and they can break it up by having somebody come in and talk, and it will really interest them. And if you do a couple of these a week, you'll be flooded with leads, and they're going to be really good quality. So let me give you some tips on giving a good speech here. Again, I've done this for years. I've taught people how to do seminars. I'm deathly afraid of seminars, or at least I used to be. So I know the perspective of somebody who is not certain that this is something that would work, or maybe a little queasy at the idea. The key thing here is a focus on being helpful and being educationally driven for the audience. What none of these speaking opportunities want you to do is come in and pitch product. You will get plenty of leads just by speaking in an educational manner. And if you're educational and somewhat entertaining, the people will come to you in droves just naturally. So if you're talking, let's say, about insurance, like I mentioned earlier, you can talk about the unfortunate reality of why people lose their homes. You can talk about maybe it's health problems. You can talk about disability. You can talk about death, and that what happens to families when they die. You can find all sorts of stories online about what happens when somebody loses their home and the devastation that it causes. And you can relay this information to people, and they'll be just scared, because a lot of people think they're protected and they don't even think about it. They'll fill in the holes in their own personal lives when they're listening to your education, and they'll make the connection between your information and education and their lack of protection. And they'll see you, since you're delivering this information, as the expert that they'll want to seek out and get advice from. So like I said, interweave stories in your presentation. And the greatest presentations have actual stories of people. And again, people fill in the gaps. When you talk about people who are usually peers to these people, then you'll find they'll be more interested and affected by this outcome of the story, whether it's good or bad. Places to speak include, like I said, church groups, social volunteer clubs are really good. B&I, like I said, you can go do those. You can, if you're a member, you can rotate around and speak at different areas, get information. Pros of these is it's completely free in most circumstances. It's very easy to get started and set up. You can literally do 2 or 3 of these a week. Like I said, you'll have plenty of people to talk to, plenty of people to sell insurance to. And you're probably doing this in a fashion in which nobody else is doing. Most people aren't going to give speeches, because the biggest con with giving speeches is just the abject fear. Like I said, I was afraid forever of doing these. Most people are more afraid of speaking than they are of dying. And while it's great for the person who's got the courage to overcome that, it can keep a lot of people out of that. So, you know, and look, I can't tell you, the other con of this is I can't tell you how many leads you're going to get out of this. You may do a presentation to 20 people and not get one. You may do a presentation to 5 and get all 5. You never really know. But it is a numbers game. You can't just do one presentation or one seminar and think, well, now I've got it set for the next month. You've really got, in my experience, you've got to do 2 or 3 a week. That's kind of the magic number, 10 to 12 a month. And if you get 1 or 2 really good leads and you sell half of them out of each one, 3 or 4 deals with no operating costs is fantastic. So look at it like that, and you'll see that there's a lot of opportunity, and you can get started doing this right away. The last con don't want to forget to add, because this is important, is there's a perception that, well, I'm brand new. I don't know anything about mortgage protection or insurance. I'm brand new at this. Well, drop that mentality. Expertise is relative, okay? When you get in front of a group of people, they're not going to know insurance nearly as much as you, even if you're brand new to this business. And you can overcome this by learning how to give a good presentation. You can overcome this by putting together a presentation, collecting facts, and making it informational and entertaining. That can be done very easily. And you can make this into a stump speech. So you give the same speech at each location, even though it's the same thing over and over. You memorize it better, and these people won't know that it's the same one. But the point here is that if you put this together and you're a little worried that maybe people think you're a fraud because you're brand new, don't. You still have more information than they do. And you can always rely on some help from somebody to fill in the gaps if somebody has particular questions. And what you'll find is when you go through these and you start doing these speeches over and over again, people have the same questions over and over again. So if you don't know the answer, you can come back, you can answer it, but now you know it and you improve. So don't let your inexperience prevent you from doing speeches. You are the expert, relatively speaking, and you'll just get better with time and do better doing the speeches. Okay, so let me give you some final thoughts on mortgage protection leads. So some last thoughts here include, number 1, walking through all these different options. The bottom line is the top producers in this business almost exclusively generate direct mail leads. You really don't see much else of what they do. Of course, they get referrals or asking for referrals. That can't be expressed enough. But the primary driver of new business is direct mail leads. And I have to say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? If I were bringing somebody new into this business, and I do, then what I would suggest is just to follow this pathway. It is the pathway of least resistance. Like I said, After recruiting and personally training agents since 2013, the top producers all follow what they're instructed to do with lead generation. You don't want to shortchange what works and what's proven to work. And in this business, it's direct mail. Specifically, what you don't want to do is come into this business and be told this is the way to success, or at least the best pathway to success. And then you personally choose the cheaper way, the less expensive way, because you're afraid to take on the financial risk of investing in yourself through your business. If you do that, your odds of success are much lower. And this has been proven to me time and time again, where I've recruited agents and they've gone through these cheap routes, the less quality routes, and they end up failing out. And what am I going to tell them? So I've actually stopped recruiting those agents that won't do what they're told and decide to opt for something else instead. So that's the other thing you got to look at, is that direct mail, is it really a cost or is it an investment? People look at direct mail, they see the price tag, and they say, wow, that's expensive. That's a high cost for leads. That's the wrong mentality to use. You're not getting a piece of paper back. You're getting the opportunity to help people out in exchange for making a great commission off of it. And you have to make that kind of investment to have that kind of opportunity. So if you look at this business, just like any other business, you can look at retail, you can look at a restaurant. These people make investments in high quality food, the atmosphere of a restaurant, the seating, the music, the staff. Sure, it's a cost, but really it's an investment in the quality of the business and what kind of income they can get out of it. And so they're not afraid to make that investment. And with mortgage protection, the investment requirement is much less than most typical brick and mortar businesses. You don't need to make a huge investment, relatively speaking. So bottom line, take a chance on yourself. Don't let the cost scare you. And here's a realistic look at what you have to lose too. So let's say you do, and you're also worried, well, geez, what if I fail? You could fail. Nobody's promising you that you'll be successful in mortgage protection. But the way I explain it to agents is that, look, this business is such that there's no pipeline of sales. It's not going to take months before you get a sale or even get paid. You should get the deal closed on the first call. And my process of looking at this is that if you don't get paid, if you don't make your money back on the first month's worth of investment in your leads, then this business isn't for you. You should at least break even, if not make a multiplier of what your initial investment was. And so that's my standard. If you can't even do that, then exit the business knowing you gave it a good shot and don't waste any more of your money. But you should come out of this swinging, and you should get some definite results right away, knowing that, hey, this is something that you can do. This is something you're comfortable with and realistic in being able to accomplish. So some next steps here. If you're interested in selling mortgage protection life insurance, you like the idea of how the lead programs work, you're not afraid of doing direct mail, then I want to invite you to learn more about my mortgage protection program. So I recruit agents, not just final expense agents, but also mortgage protection agents across the country to sell mortgage protection leads or sales. So here's how it works. So first of all, I have relationships with lead houses where we can offer you the same exact comprehensive direct mail marketing system I talked about earlier. This is the critical component. We can offer fresh, exclusive direct mail leads pretty much anywhere in the country. You also get sales and product training. So not only are you getting access to a lead program, but I personally help you with learning how to sell mortgage protection, as well as learning the products available so that you can go out there and competently offer this to your product, to your market. Then you also get ongoing support and mentorship from me personally. So what happens is that because you're my agent, you have direct access to me via phone, text message, email, and when you need help maybe with it, setting appointments, running sales calls, closing deals, anywhere where maybe you're struggling or getting stuck, you have personal access to me. I'll help you identify where you can improve, what you can do better, and how you can get the most out of your mortgage protection opportunities. And then you also get access to top mortgage protection carriers out there. The great thing about what I do is I'm not obligated to any particular company. I'm a niche-based marketing organization. So my interest is in the agent's interest, which is having the best selection of the carriers out there to offer the best combination of pricing and coverage. So I have carriers we start with, usually just several to begin with, but we can branch out very quickly, and you can select and choose whatever companies you want to work with. So that's great too. And there's maximal commission opportunity, and this is really big. A lot of people say this, I actually follow through. Many times my starting commission is close to 2 times as high as what you'll find with these big name multi-level marketing organizations. And that's not necessarily even the highest commission you can get to. The reason I'm able to do that is I'm not a large organization that's supporting a handful of downline pyramids that you have to pay each time you make a sale. My organization is very narrow. I don't have a lot of people in my organization, so I can pass that commissionable opportunity along to my agents. And I want this because I want my agents to make a good living, sell a lot of insurance, and stick with it because they're getting properly paid, and it's a profitable venture for them. So here's the next step to getting started. So you can go to feagentmentor.com/contact. You can request my mortgage protection information sales overview video so you can determine if this program is a good fit for you. And I want to thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this informational video on mortgage protection leads, and we will see you next time. Subscribe and like if you haven't. Take care.